So what, did you make contact with aliens? Were you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
You don't know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I see that which is elimination as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm the void one.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
All broadcasting from New York, upstate near the Great Lakes. It's Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Rupe, and we're live on KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM. It's Monday night, September the 28th, as the moon begins to round full. And we're kicking this week off on Moon Day, Moon Night, talking about the out-of-body experience with a guest, Marilynn Hughes. The website for reference tonight is outofbodytravel.org. This is one of our favorite topics on this show because we can simply talk about it all night long. And it's because I know you guys know just how important I think this subject matter is, because it's not just about recreation or having fun. I think it's time that we all learn how to do this and do it correctly. Before we kick the show off, or correctly, or just do it at all. I don't know if there's really a correct way to do that. We'll discuss that, though. Before we kick the show off, I want to mention our event coming up at the Fringe Fest, thefringefest.com. Make sure you put the in front of it. Sign up, get your seats. Tickets are limited. You're going to want to come hang out with us on Halloween weekend. That's going to be a blast. It's going to be fun. As well as we're going to have Alex's Halloween special that Saturday night, too, that you definitely don't want to miss out. I mean, the guy goes all out for this thing, by the way. So it's really, really good. It's really good. Last one scared me. The one before that scared me. The last one scared me even more. So I'm sure this one's going to be scary too. And I'm a grown man. So imagine staying up late with us Halloween night and checking that out. All right, what else? If you want to call into the show tonight, it's 1-800-588-0335, and we open the phone lines up as well. You can join our chat room at thefringe.fm/chat room. I want to welcome our new patrons. Thank you for supporting the show. If you want to continue to get the show for free and support Lighting the Void, do like all our fellow Void Walkers have done. Sign up at least to the small package, and I assure you, I give you guys something cool every month. Try to do it twice a month, but with all the upgrades with the station, it hadn't kind of came out that way, but I'm going to make it up to you. You'll see. I got some really cool stuff coming from behind the scenes for that. So I can't thank my patrons enough. I can't thank the producer enough, Pacho, for making all this happen. And I'm enjoying the 75-degree weather while I'm up here near the Canadian border. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's been very nice. Other than that, I think, you need to download the new apps. Go to Alexa, install the Skill, the Google Play Store, install the new app. Go to iTunes, install the new Fringe FM app. Use the shout-out feature. We're still working the bugs out on the Google Play Store for the shout-outs. But if you got an iPhone, you can always leave a shout-out. We'll play it during the show. And other than that, I think we're good. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I probably missed something. Sure I did. All right, so let's get on with this thing because this is one of my favorite topics, and we need to get down to business. Marilynn Hughes founded the OutofBody Travel Foundation in 2003, and the mission is to reduce spiritual and physical hunger worldwide. And Marilynn has written 101 books, 40 magazines, 18 CDs, all on the out-of-body travel and experience and comparative religious mysticism. Now, these books, along with accompanying music and art, are all available for free download. Interesting. And Marilynn has experienced, researched, written, and taught about the out-of-body travel and mysticism since 1987 and has appeared on innumerable radio and television programs to discuss her thousands of out-of-body experiences. You can go to the website again at outofbodytravel.org. Thanks for coming on the broadcast. Marilynn, it's good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Joe.
That's a lot of out-of-body, I got to say. That's a lot. You know,
yes, it is. It is a lot.
So, okay. Then I can definitely ask you this question because I think everybody knows what I'm going to ask. Now, everybody I've had on the show.
But I don't. I have no idea what this question's going to be.
Well, everybody I've had on the show, I've discussed this in full detail about how some people say that the out-of-body experience is the same as a dream, but just a different level. Now, I've had a few out-of-body experiences that I can count on my hand, and one of them, for sure, I know was not a damn dream.
Yep.
I know it wasn't. There's just no way it was a dream. And I think you know what I'm talking about. So help me here with this, please.
Yeah, when you have a fully conscious out-of-body experience, it's something that you don't have to, ask the question, did I have one?
Exactly.
Because it's very powerful and it's very conscious and it's very clearly an out-of-body experience. There are different levels that people will experience in dreams where they'll have various levels of memories sometimes. And some of these I will call spiritual dreams where people will have remnants of the memory, but it is still in a dream state. And so it's a very different experience because the out-of-body experience in a fully conscious way, as you just described, is a very definitive experience. It's very definitively distinct from a dream. It's not the same, but there are aspects of the experience that people will have in dreams because all people do have these types of out-of-body travels during their sleep at night, because this is kind of the normal state of the human consciousness. It's part of how our spiritual journey and our spiritual unfoldment occurs. And so a lot of people aren't aware of it. They have no conscious memory of it. And then there are other people who have some memory of it. There are a lot of dreams that have nothing to do with out-of-body travel. And so this is where it can get a little tricky because there is truth to this, where if you have these great spiritual dreams, which are giving you direction and guidance, you want to pay attention to those. Those are very important. But there is a distinction between a fully conscious out-of-body experience and even a spiritual dream in terms of what you will actually experience. It's very different. You're absolutely right on that.
Massively different. I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
when I,
it's like eons and worlds apart. Yes.
Yeah, like when I pulled myself out of body that one time and looked at my body sleeping, and then there was no parts that I forgot about. It was just like real life to me.
Yeah. It's actually, it's completely conscious as if you are awake, but in some respects, you are even more conscious because there is a certain vibrancy and awakeness, aliveness that you experience, the vibrance, where you can feel even more conscious than you do in the physical waking world. Not necessarily with some of the more grounded experiences, but especially as you go into some of the higher spheres, you're going to definitely experience that.
Now tell me how, when people come to you and say, look, Marilynn, because we have we do the Astral Journal for our patrons where we just talk about it and kind of work together on it. It seems that some people just do it with ease, right? And I don't know if that's so true sometimes. I wonder about that. But then, it's like, okay, well, Robert Monroe talked about how easy it was for him to do. So I guess there are people that do that. And then others like me, I think I became obsessed with it, did it once. And then it's like I've been trying to get back to that one experience I had that one time since then.
Yes.
And then others they get to the vibratory state, but they don't ever get past that.
Right.
What's the biggest barrier here, you think?
That's interesting. There's a lot of different things that will block people. And you can read about a good detailed list of these in a couple of my books, Astral Projection Made Easy and Come to Wisdom's Door. And, you can go to the website and our books are available for free download. And those are a couple of introductory books that you can read that will detail a lot of things that people want to know to prepare and be ready for their first out-of-body experience. There's a lot of things that can block people. You can be dealing with fear. People are afraid of you've had the experience. So people are afraid of the power of it.
Yeah.
When you hit into the vibrational state and then you're going into some of these very intense experiences, it can scare people because it's so different, so monumentally different than our physical waking existence and what we're used to. People can be afraid of ghosts. People can be afraid of just being out of control, because it is something that is very, where you have to surrender a bit to really have the experience in a meaningful way. You have to surrender to God and allow it to be directed by a higher force. So there's a fear of that lack of control. There are a variety of fears, and these are just some of them. But there can be any number of them. In terms of other types of blocks, and when you're talking about people getting to a certain state and not being able to get beyond it, a lot of times those are related to blocks that might be less obvious, like things that somebody might be struggling with or not even necessarily being aware of struggling with it, something that they're not able to allow to happen, or beliefs or perceptions that they are unwilling to reconsider.
Can you give me an example? Perceptions they're willing to reconsider. What do you mean by that? Or they're not willing to reconsider?
It can be so many different things because we're all different. But let me think of one in particular.
That the out-of-body experience is just another dream state? Is that one?
Well, certainly that can be one. I mean, anything can actually be this. In the out-of-body experience, there are so many things you're going to be introduced to. So I guess one general overall way to state it is that if you don't go into the experience with the idea of, I'm going to allow God to show me what the truth is, rather than going in to validate what my own preconceived idea of the truth is, then you're going to have obstacles. You know, you want to let go of your need to be correct in your preconceptions. You want to allow God, the universe, to demonstrate itself to you, because if you are blocked in that way, then they simply will not reveal. It cannot be revealed to you. You have to be open in that way. There are also other things that, you know, as the experiences progress, you will be directed to do certain things differently. If there is a lot of, a lot of resistance to change, or resistance to the energetic sources, the vibrational constructs, the vibrational forces that are being brought towards a soul, if that soul is resistant to that evolutionary thrust, that will be a barrier, a major barrier. Sometimes it can be even things like, because a lot of people who have out-of-body experiences will begin to travel forward or backward in time and experience past or future lives. It might be that they have a resistance to that if they didn't believe in that before and they still don't. Like, you know, something like that. And it just really doesn't work with their conception of reality. There are a lot of things that you will be introduced to that won't work with your conception of reality, just because, you know, even in our, I do a lot in my books regarding the writings from the ancient sacred texts written by the prophets, saints, mystics, saints, sages, and ascetics. And the reason for this is because they are leaving their secrets, their keys, before they, you know, literally pass through this world and never to return, because they have discovered the secret keys that they needed to discover as a soul. And in those texts, they are leaving those keys in their final words to us.
And you see that a lot in just regular religion too. A lot of hints towards the out-of-body experience, things like that.
Oh, yes, you do. And in fact, one of the books I wrote was called Near Death and Out-of-Body Experiences of the Prophets, Saints, Mystics, and Sages in World Religion. And it has a lot to do with the birth points of religion, which are generally out-of-body travel experiences in revelations, because that's what's happening. And so we often forget that these things are being born of out-of-body experiences. That's what a lot of these great mystical events are, that have, brought into being some of these systems. But what happens is that when you go into these out-of-body travel states, no matter what your belief system, no matter how open-minded you are or whatever, you're going to be faced with a larger reality, a greater, more multidimensional, more infinite understanding of all things. You know, this unconditional love of God, but also this unfathomable mysteries of God as it is revealed and opened up to you. And this will be coming to you in a form that is very energetic, it's very powerful, but it's not something that you will be able to like box into the structure of, you know, the physical world. And so these can be things where we can be held back simply by our own personal ability to adapt to those changes. So, the personal development that we can make spiritually through the out-of-body experiences can be greatly affected and impacted by our willingness to allow our soul to be formed and opened up in the way that God chooses for us, rather than what we might think would make sense, because our own view of it is always going to be much more limited, because we don't know what we don't know, and what God has to show us is always so much more magnificent, much greater than we could ever even think up. And so this ability to move, bend, sway, and adapt, process, and move into the knowledge, which is, a moving, living thing, an energetic, line of energy that is not, it's not just words. It is a moving body of knowledge. And the more that we're able to do that, the more we will be able to move through the barriers that each one of us individually might have. So a lot of times, like if someone is stuck at the vibrational state, there may be something there. It could be related to either, like, for instance, a fear of that power that you experience in that vibrational state, or even a completely different reason for it could be that there could be some type of barrier to receiving what that vibration is bringing within the soul, that would be forming that soul, bringing that soul higher, and preparing that soul for the exit and the movement into the higher worlds. But there's something that holds that soul there, something that they're not comfortable with.
So,
And
hold on a second, though. You caught me with something there. Just
sure.
Are you saying that the whole idea is to grow? Yeah, we want to talk about this a little bit more too, because there's definitely something to the out-of-body experience, or more than just it happens because it's a part of nature, right? I mean, like, there's something there we're supposed to be developing.
Absolutely. And in fact, this is a great place to just point out today is the day that we are premiering the documentary film produced by Brian Malem, The Grand Phases of the Soul, which is based on the work that I did in the book called The Mysteries of the Redemption, which you can download that book at the site at outofbodytravel.org, but you can also watch the premiere of The Grand Phases of the Soul, which will lay out for you what we are talking about as we discuss what is the purpose of out-of-body travel. It is the purification of the soul. We live in a mortal realm. A mortal realm is a realm where the forces of both good and evil reside in the world around us, but also within and inside each and every human being. And we are battling that outside and within us. There are other realms that are the lower realms that have different levels of darkness that get deeper and deeper, where it is more where you're going from dominant darkness to pure evil. And then you have realms as you're going higher to infinite realms of light beyond us. And so the primary objective in a mortal realm is to identify and navigate through the dark elements within our soul, the karmic configurations which need to be overcome and understood and transformed, and to transform the soul into a higher being, a higher spirit. And this purification starts this journey, and the soul moves into the discrimination pathway and then into the discipline pathway. Ironically, these are the grand phases of the soul as spoken of in the Buddhist tradition, which follows very closely the same but called by different names, a similar series of steps that's in the Catholic monastic tradition. So, yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about this as we head into our break. I knew there was something to this. It wasn't just to have fun and fly around, that's for sure. We'll be right back.
Yep.
Alex Exum, and I host Live Talk here on The Fringe FM. If you're sick of hearing about COVID-19, I invite you to listen to my show, 7 p.m. Pacific, Tuesday nights, for a COVID-free zone. We will not be talking about the C word. We discuss news, society, and culture, but not COVID-19. Go listen to the other fearmongers if you want to hear that nonsense.
Born out of the alchemical tradition of Paracelsus is a medical tradition called Spagyria. Though not many people practice this work today, Phoenix Aurelius has been researching and teaching this work for the last 15 years, and he needs your support.
Hi, I'm Phoenix Aurelius, and I'm the founder of the Phoenix Aurelius Research Society, where I perform modern scientific research on the methods and techniques of Paracelsian alchemy and Spagyria for health, wellness, agriculture, ecology, and more. All my work is 100% funded by the public. So if you like what I'm doing and you want to support my research, please consider making a purchase of spagyric medicines from my apothecary, fund your own spagyric IDF wellness research, or participate in my group study or one-on-one immersion courses so that you can learn how to perform this work for yourself. I want to thank you in advance for your support.
Visit thefringe.fm/alchemy research and enter coupon code FRINGE and receive 15% off anything and everything on the website. That's thefringe.fm/alchemy research. And thank you for doing your part and keeping alchemy alive in the modern day. Have you suffered in silence or experienced stress from a paranormal experience? Even if it happened 20 years ago, when thinking or talking about it today still makes you feel sick to your stomach or makes your heart beat faster, or you suddenly can't breathe. Maybe you even feel those old familiar signs of a panic attack trying to reach the surface. You could have unprocessed emotional responses. Those reactions of terror and trauma are no different than living through a horrible assault, childhood abuse, or a terrible car accident. It can be nearly impossible to find help. The very instance of seeing a ghost or encountering a cryptid could be clinically described as seeing or hearing things that aren't there. You could be considered psychotic, or at best, you're just not taken seriously. Out of a growing mountain of research, the National Institute for Integrative Healthcare showed that 8 out of 10 veterans who completed just 6 one-hour EFT sessions no longer tested positive for PTSD. If you've had paranormal trauma, you can contact Metaphorical Archaeology by calling 214-995-3754. Again, that's 214-995-3754 for a discreet consultation.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Have you heard of heavy metals?
Yeah!
I'm not talking about the heavy metals in the junkyard. I'm talking about the heavy metals that build up in your body. Heavy metals in your body can make you feel sluggish, fatigued, and just plain off. Why not try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? Cleansing your body and making you feel great. cleansing the inside of your body of intruders that sneak their way into you and set up an intruder camp. Life Change Tea helps remove unwanted intruder camps. Brew it, steep it, and drink in the results. Tastes great, so you can create a new health habit. Our tea loves to help people. It just needs the chance. So order yours today by logging on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Our Life Change Super Strength Tea is waiting. This could be a beautiful relationship. Take charge of your health. Order at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com.
All right, man, this is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Lighting the Void. Our guest tonight, Marilynn Hughes, is here with us. We're discussing the out-of-body experience and what are the purposes behind this whole thing. Why does it happen to us to begin with? And how do we progress through this and understand the implications of what's happening to us when these types of things happen? And you can go to outofbodytravel.org. You can also join our Discord server by going to thefringe.fm/chat room or call into the show at 1-800-588-0335. So before we took this break here, you were implying exactly what does it mean? What is this out-of-body experience for? Why is it happening? And you were discussing the phases of, I guess, some type of soul ascension, and I had to cut you off, so I wanted you kind of pick up from there, if you don't mind.
Well, yeah, we had mentioned that the grand phases of the soul was released today, and you can catch that on OutofBodyTravel.org, which is a documentary explaining this whole process. And it's also explained in the book, The Mysteries of the Redemption, which you can download for free as well at the site. But yes, what you're doing here, this is one of the really beautiful things that people often miss about out-of-body travel, is that it is profoundly purposeful. You know, the first experiences that a lot of people will have are these general experiences of looking at their body, maybe flying around the earth, maybe around the astral plane, some of these types of things. But if you pursue the experience with diligence and with ardor and with the proper intent, it very quickly merges into this profound journey of evolution. You begin to travel into the multidimensional, infinite universe. And so you are not just sticking around the earth or the astral plane. You are literally going through corridors, a multi-level corridors that take you to many different types of realms, spheres, epics, places of travel. Many of which are going to be utilized to teach you and guide you forward. And, you know, there is a general progression that is laid out for us that we find is what most souls will follow to a certain extent. And it's not something beyond our reach or beyond our ability to know about. It's very clearly laid out for us. And so we begin by learning a lot about our own soul. We learn about our past lives. We learn about the issues that we harbor within our own soul regarding our vices and what we might need to do to correct some of the things we are maybe not handling properly, but also we learn about our karmic entanglements, and we are given direction as to how these types of things may become solvable and transformable over time. A lot of people will go into a lot of different lifetimes and they'll start seeing a pattern. They might see even a soul pattern where they incarnate with a certain grouping of souls. There might be a similar configuration, and then they start seeing the different ways that they have handled the same situation over and over again.
I've had
and
that.
What did not work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you see the different ways and certain things that did not work, and now you're like, okay, so I guess I have to figure out what will, right? And then you're going to go into like the realms of creation. You're going to learn about your own particular calling in life, and that can be anything. In the realms of creation, it covers everything. So it's not just, like if you're a painter or an artist or a musician, it's going to cover if you're in science, if you're in business fields, if whatever your gifts are, you're going to have areas that you will be taken to which will enhance and direct you towards your calling and your vocation in this life. Then you're going to be going into this very intensive period of learning how to discern between darkness and light, and you learn about eternal law. And eternal law is the law that it is what is true according to God versus what is true according to man. And so eternal law supersedes all other laws in the universe.
Now do you mean like natural law, like hermetics and stuff like that, or?
No, natural law is different than eternal law. Natural law would be related to the laws of nature, how things work on the earth, physical, natural law.
Okay.
Eternal law has to do with what we would call energetic truth. Energetic truth has to do with the realities that surround the human intention and human good. And so when it comes to eternal truth, everything that we do or think or feel or everything that is happening around us, there is an energetic and eternal truth that is what is really happening despite what it may appear to be according to the grounded view on the physical world. And this is God's view, which takes into consideration everything, all the things that come into play, all of the circumstances around all events, all of the intentions. God is the only one who knows the heart of souls. And so thus, the energetic truth is determined through this knowledge that God understands, and he conveys it to us in the mystical realm to help us to understand things better. This is how we start learning to then discern between good and evil. And we do then begin taking journeys into the heavens, the hells, and the purgatories. Becomes a very, very, very detailed journey where we learn about how does evolution occur in a human soul, but how does evolution occur in all life? Not just in this world, but in all worlds. And how can we contribute not only in our own soul evolution, but in the evolution of other life in other realms that could benefit from our assistance as well? It goes so far beyond this because as you pass even through this, you're going to go into the realms of emanations. And when you move into the realms of the emanations, you are being introduced into qualities. These are eternal qualities that you can then allow yourself to take upon you. And of course, you also have to go through, trials and tribulations to prove that you are ready to receive these types of gifts. And, this is what we often call the initiations into the mysteries and the rites of passage. And I'd mentioned to you, we also released today our 12-hour seminar on the initiations into the mysteries. You can also check that out at the website. The initiations into the mysteries are so important because these are the actual things that we must go through to prove our readiness and prove our worthiness as well as we move closer and closer to God. Because, the ultimate goal of out-of-body travel is that we are trying to move closer and closer to the all-holy God. And if we want to move closer to the all-holy God, then we must begin to understand and learn about what holiness is, to stand in the presence of all holiness. And so we go through these initiations and we do the rites of passage. We'll be doing a series of things on the rites of passage as well, it's also included in the Mysteries of the Redemption and a bunch of other books that I have available on the site, The Hammer of Mysticism, The Fragrance of the Mystical Rose. You can check those out if you're interested in these particular things as well. But you go through these things so that you may become more purified, more energized, and more prepared to receive of the higher constructs of the universe. And we have to go through these types of initiations, and much will be required of us. We have to prove our worthiness in a variety of ways. We have to become more humble. We have to become more loving. We have to become more caring. And what we often miss about this whole journey of life is that, well, people will say God is love, but they don't understand what that means. And so when you talk about it and you experience it in the out-of-body travel state, you're going to understand that love is an emanation that comes from God. And so if we are trying to move ever closer to God, who is love, then we must partake of that emanation, of that quality. And so as God is love, and yet what we find on the other side of that coin, evil is its opposite. It can be hatred. It can be, there can be a lot of things in here. God is love and peace and order and calm, whereas the other side of evil will be the
fear,
anger, the
uncertainty,
hatred,
chaos.
And yes, a lot of unrest. And so what we find happening through these out-of-body travels and through these initiations that we go through is that we will become more and more closer to this calm, peaceful state of love that God just is, that God just emanates. And so, this is what you hear when you hear people talk about their near-death experiences, and also people who have out-of-body experiences often experience this being bathed in the unconditional love of God. And this is part of what they're talking about. It's this emanation that just completely engulfs the soul. And this engulfing has a purpose, because it is like a beckoning from the highest heavens of, this is what I have for you. Partake of it so that I may draw you closer. And so the out-of-body experience becomes actually more of a direct route where we have this direct contact with the spiritual teachers, the spiritual guardians, the masters of creation, all of these amazing angelic hierarchies, the prophets, saints, mystics, sages, and ascetics. We can travel to the pure lands where they reside. We can travel to many, many, many worlds of great beauty, and we become a different being by so doing. And in becoming that different being, we are transforming what we once were when we were just a human being into a greater thing, which is what we are here to do, is to evolve into something greater, because there is a graduation point that we all reach when we complete the tasks at hand in a mortal realm. And that's what we are seeking. Another thing that we'll talk about, which is directly in correlation, is this ascension process. Because what we're doing in this is we are transforming the soul from the process of just simple death and dying to the ascension of the soul. And this is complex, and it would be hard to explain really simply, but this is a really essential part of understanding this transformation, because it is when a soul goes from the vibration of mortality to immortality that they are ready to move on to the next sphere of knowledge. And that's when they're done with the mortal realms, and they can go in their next incarnation, after their life on earth is through, to the next level of evolution.
Wow, that's a lot. Well, I mean, yeah, that is that's a lot. It seems like a lot of pressure, honestly.
Does it seem like a lot of pressure?
Yeah, but then again, it's like, well, if it's just love and emanation, then it's probably not a lot of pressure.
It's I'm glad you said that, because I'm sure a lot of people are thinking that. And the thing about it is that what we don't realize, Jesus Christ said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." And a lot of people do not understand what those words meant. When we are given the profound grace of going through this process and receiving the vibrations from God and from the higher spheres and from the angelic hierarchies, it's like having a burden thrown off our back. It's not that. It's not what you were saying. It is a beautiful, peaceful transition. And, we take it in these small steps. God guides us in a way that is very loving and very aware of our need for taking things in general steps. And yes, there are times that we will go through that it is more difficult than others, especially when we are being made aware of our sinfulness or something within us that is like a really heavy duty core karmic issue that is just so deeply embedded. It's just really hard for us to look at it and see it and, just face it. But this is the thing. Facing it and seeing it is what frees you. And that's why his yoke is easy and his burden light, because it is not the realization of our imperfection that makes the journey hard. It is the holding on to an old way that doesn't work, that makes us tired and exhausted and unable to move forward. And so it can feel that way. It can feel that way where it's like, wow, that sounds really tiring. And believe me, I say that sometimes. I'm too tired to keep doing this.
Yeah, no,
But the thing is,
totally what you're saying. Yeah.
But there are some, the most invigorating things that I experience are, receiving the vibrations from the angels. That's how we actually receive and revive our bodies and souls, is that we allow that vibration to come in. And you'll see that as you progress through these stages, you'll go through these periods where it becomes more and more and more profoundly present that you will be receiving these vibrations. And it's, I don't even know how to really put it in words, but this is how you receive. You are energized by it. This is what fills you and gives you the impetus to continue and to move forward. And once you have actually experienced these things, you really will say to yourself, I don't know how I did it without that. It's much more exhausting to stay in the old and not progress than it is to progress, because when we progress, what's happening is we are accepting grace. When we accept grace, we have the energies coming into us from heaven. And so we are not moving and shaking and making all these things happen of ourselves alone. We are doing this through an act of the will, a desire to seek and know and love God more, and our desire to, perfect and move forward. But we also are moving through the actual power that is being imbued in us through these graces. And so there is this whole added dimension of energy and, light that pushes us forward into this forward motion, this beautiful journey. And truly, I've never met anyone who did not say the same, that they, once someone really embarks upon this, they never want to lose it.
Right. I get that too. I totally get that too. So we're at the top of the hour. If you guys got any questions about this, I would definitely call in or leave a shout out in the shout out system there to ask your question, because what she's talking about is some of the stuff that I've experienced, or at least I can say that all of the things we've talked about on the show and some of the stories I've told you guys, it really makes it make sense. It really does. We'll be right back with Marilynn Hughes. Stay with us.